Are you looking for some free motion flower designs? Are you trying to build your free motion quilting skills? Today I want to share 3 floral motifs that fit in any size quilt block. I'm Andy and this is True Blue Quilts, a place to enjoy, experiment, and excel as you quilt. Let's get started. Before we can begin free motion quilting, we need to secure the blocks with stitch in the ditch. I am using a straight ruler and following the seam lines between the blocks as I stitch. Before I cut the thread on this pass of quilting, I will add the loops in the side triangles. For the next pass, I will begin with loops in the side triangles. I vary the height of each loop to fill the space available. Then I begin my first flower motif in the central log cabin block. As I move into the alternate row, I decide to do a spiral design. This is a square spiral with wavy lines. So I am leaving space between the first and second rounds of the spiral so that I will have room to fit another line of stitching on my way back out. Once I reach the center of the block, I repeat my stitching, trying to stay halfway in between the previous stitching lines. I can work my way back out of that block and into the next area of my quilt. For the free motion flowers in the log cabin quilt, I am using 3 different types of petals that I want to show you here on my whiteboard. That's a little bit easier to see the design than on the quilt in matching thread. So the 3 different petals I'm using, I call my flame, my tooth, and this one is just a flat petal. So let's see how these 3 different designs stitch out.
They all start with a spiral center. And then my first petal I bring near that first stitching line. And a flame is just that gentle S curve. And you can change directions however you need to. And then you can travel back out that direction. What I have done in particular for this log cabin block is I stitch back along my spiral in the center and then just do a continuation line to the corner so that I can continue into the next block without cutting my thread. Moving on to the tooth block, it may help to get this petal shape in your muscle memory by just stitching a row using that curved corner and a slight dip in the center. Again, I start with a spiral in the center and then travel parallel to that seam line. And I can generally get about 5 of those shapes. That makes a nice full flower. This really reminds me of a hibiscus. If you like that flower, this is a great design, and you can make those petals as small or as large. You can even do several rows around if you wanted to travel back outside and then echo those designs or bring that alternating gentle curve, gentle bump there to expand that flower. I add some veins in these leaves, and they can be just a quick straight in and out or almost one of those flames in the center if you wanted to add some detail to this tooth flower. I also use a flower with flat petals, and I found that just a fun way to expand my flower in the space. Starting always with that spiral in the center, and then however you want to travel out to the outer border of your block. And you can do a gentle curve, you can do more of a straight line out to the top of that petal. You can make them fat, you can make them skinny. This is just a great way to make the petals on your flower fit in whatever space you have available. To break up the space in this log cabin quilt, I used a square spiral in every other row. So I would do one row of flowers and then one row of spiral designs. So I would just come in to my block and travel along the edge. And with spiral designs, you need to remember that if you're going to travel back out, you need to leave yourself some space. And so your first row, you have a lot of space in between the rows, and then when you come back out, you're trying to split that space in half. So everything works out nice and even, and then give yourself an escape route in one of the corners.
Watch as I stitch those flower designs in these log cabin blocks. I am traveling across the quilt without breaking my thread. So after I stitch each flower with its different petal shapes, I will move into the spiral design and continue alternating blocks until I reach the edge of my quilt.
It's easier to see the quilting with a little bit of shadow, so I turned off the overhead lights, and I've got my loops there in the setting triangles, flame flower for one of the blocks. This I call a tooth flower because we're just making a gentle curve there for that flower petal. And this variation, I did sharper corners on those petals to fill the space. And then my square spiral that I just stitched into the middle and back out from that block. So that's giving some alternating interest there. Not every block is going to be the same, but we've got just a few designs that I was able to work out to the corners and into the next block as I finished there across the quilt. So this is just a scrappy log cabin. Here's the last row that I will be working on. And we've got a bright yellow background on that with, I'm quilting everything with a cream colored thread.
You can see more free motion quilting designs on a variety of quilt styles in the video linked below. True Blue Quilts is here every week with tutorials that help you enjoy, experiment, and excel as you quilt. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.